So we live in a world now where fruit is being mass produced, and that fruit is Netflix, Disney Plus, Prime Video. Well, I don't know, some of the video game makers, you name it, PS5, Xbox, they're all producing fruit. Now artificial intelligence is here, and we've taught AI how to produce fruit. We have. And many of us are eating from that. We don't know how it's produced. We don't know what's in it, and we're trying to figure out why our lives are the way they are. And the main reason why is because you're not producing. And that's what happens when you don't set goals. You don't set goals, because when you're producing your own fruit, not only can other people eat from it, but you can eat from it, and you know exactly what's in it. You know exactly what's in it. So now people are dealing with anxiety, depression. They're dealing with things that they don't know why they're dealing with it. And almost always, anything that we're dealing with is something that we consumed. Whether mentally, spiritually, physically, it's something that we consumed. And then it's leading to some type of chaos in our lives.
Change up the things you see. Open your mind to possibilities. Find your power, passion, and your purpose. You know it's time for you to walk in greatness. Let's murder mediocrity. Slay your goals, live out your dreams. Right now. Inspiration and perspective. Open your mind to a better life. It's time to live the dream. Find your purpose now. Inspiration and perspective. Let's slay your goals.
So real quick, let me tell you what happens when you don't set goals. Chaos. Chaos. There's actually a chaos theory. And the chaos theory states, I'm gonna start here this morning. I ain't planning on it, but I'm gonna start here. The chaos theory basically states that despite how things look, there is order. So the chaos theory will take, lots of different matter. Like I could have I was going to say Skittles, but that's not healthy. I don't want to say nothing that But anyway, if I had let's use Skittles, for instance, because we're not going to eat them. We're going to throw them on the table here, right? If I threw them on the table, they would fall down in like a random order. And most people would say, well, that's chaotic. But they fell in that order based on laws and principles, based on gravity, based on physics, based on the way I tossed it down. They fell in some type of order. Most of us, if right now somebody came into the studio and they saw these Skittles all over the table, they go, "What? Why are they sitting in this chaos?" Right? But even in what we perceive as chaos, there's order. There was an impact. There was something that caused the Skittles to lay out that way. Here's where I'm going. However chaotic you believe your life is chaotic for a reason. There's a reason that it's laid out that way. And you are at the helm of it. That is one of the things that the Creator did when He gave us volition. He gave us free will. And He put His Spirit in us and said, go create. At least that's what I think be fruitful and multiply means. And the fruitful part, I think a lot of times we accredit to like having children, but the multiply part is that. The fruitful part means that as you grow, you should bear fruit that can give to other people and that can plant seeds for future generations. Be fruitful and multiply. Because the other thing that's happening is with the advent of technology, then we can actually like eat from other people's fruit and forget that we're supposed to produce. What do I mean? Netflix, that's eating from someone else's fruit and forgetting that I also need to produce. Like that's a product that somebody created. It's fruit. It really is. And then I think we also don't wonder about, is this good fruit or is it bad fruit? On Friday, I had the team over my house, and my assistant, we were ordering breakfast, and she was like, they had a fruit platter. You remember this Ade? Ade was there. So we had a fruit platter, and I was like, no, I don't want that fruit platter because I don't know if it's organic. I'm going to have the team at my house create a fruit platter. That's what I said, right? And then I forgot. So they got to the house, and my assistant was like, where's the fruit platter? She asked my wife, where's the fruit platter? My wife was like, what fruit platter? Anyway, I forgot. And there was no fruit. And the reason there was no fruit is because I wanted to have responsibility for the fruit because I know what went in the fruit if I did that. And by the way, my excuse to my team was, the reason you don't have fruit is because I didn't want to feed you just anything. I wanted to feed you good fruit, right? And so I was going to take fruit from my house that I know where it came from. I know that it's organic and that it's good. So that way, if you ate fruit, it would be good fruit going into your body. Where am I going with all this? So we live in a world now where fruit is being mass produced, and that fruit is Netflix, Disney Plus, Prime Video, well, I don't know, some of the video game makers, you name it, PS5, Xbox, they're all producing fruit. Now artificial intelligence is here, and we've taught AI how to produce fruit. We have. And many of us are eating from that. We don't know how it's produced. We don't know what's in it, and we're trying to figure out why our lives are the way they are. And the main reason why is because you're not producing. And that's what happens when you don't set goals. You don't set goals because when you're producing your own fruit, not only can other people eat from it, but you can eat from it and you know exactly what's in it. You know exactly what's in it. So now people are dealing with anxiety, depression. They're dealing with things that they don't know why they're dealing with it. And almost always, anything that we're dealing with is something that we consumed. Whether mentally, spiritually, physically, it's something that we consumed. And then it's leading to some type of chaos in our lives. When I was in high school, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And I think every mother who's listening to me now, one of the things, like, because we'll say in one breath, goals don't matter. But if our children don't have a clear goal, at least if you're a good parent, like by the time they're 15, 16, and we're like, so what are you going to do? That's the big question. What are you going to do? You know, what's next? What are you going to do? Most of us are saying, like most parents are asking their children, let me change the format a bit. What is your goal? What is your goal in the next 3 to 6 years? That's what they're asking their child. What is your goal? And when a child says, I don't know, that causes us to be concerned as parents. We're like, what? Right? And so we have all this concern for the child because we understand that when you go out into this world and you're not clear, chaos happens. We understand that, right? As parents, we get that. Chaos happens. But then what we forget is that when you go out into the world and you're not clear, chaos happens. And so we become adults. And the very simple lessons that we were taught by our parents, the things that they instilled in us, very simply, hey, what are you going to do? You need to have a plan, right? And maybe we did set the plan. 16, 17, I'm going to school to be an engineer. I'm going to school to be a teacher. And I remember this very clearly. My mother, she was on top of me. I was like, what are you going to do? I don't know. I don't know. All I knew is I wanted to make money, though. Want to make money. I ain't going to be poor like y'all. Like, because I ain't living like this ain't it. That's how I felt. And I didn't even realize, like, we weren't poor. We were just middle class. Like, you get where I'm going? But it wasn't, it wasn't enough. That's how I felt. It's not enough. And by the way, there were 8 of us in a 4-bedroom home. And so 1 bathroom. I was like, this ain't it. This is not it. Blessed. We were blessed. Like, that's the crazy part. We were blessed. But this ain't it. I want to do anything that gets me out of here and makes me money, was my thought. And I wasn't really clear. And my mother was so concerned about this that she paid for an assessment for me to take it to identify what my talents were, so that way I could lean in the right direction in terms of a career. And I didn't take it seriously. And because I didn't take it seriously, I would say between the ages of 17 and 24, things were just chaotic for me. Like, chaotic. And many of you all know my story. It's also, I think, probably why I'm so big on goal setting, because I understand what chaos feels like. I completely understand what chaos feels like. And so I kind of did it backwards, where I didn't set goals between 17 and 24. And what I believe is most of us set goals between 17 and 24, and then we don't set anymore. That's what I believe. Like, we don't set anymore. So then 10 years later, 34, 35, 40, 48, 50, 52, 50, we're trying to figure out why life is so chaotic. And it's because something you did when you were young that brought it together, you completely forgot about. Like, it's like in somewhere in the programming, it's like the only goal you need to set is the goal around who you're going to work for and what you're going to do for them. And so the goal isn't even about you. The goal, and this is how we're taught in our schools, the goal is, who will I be for the big companies? That's really the goal. Versus, who will I be for me? Who will I be for the Creator? And why was I created, and what purpose do I serve? And setting a goal around that. And when you set a goal around that, the side effect is clarity and peace. When you don't set goals, or you set a goal around someone else's kingdom, when I say someone else's kingdom, just give me a Fortune 500 company, that's a kingdom. What happens is you feel a sense of anxiety, a lack of clarity. There's a lot of chaos. Even when you're supposed to feel safe. Because don't they call it job security? So if I have job security, why don't I have peace? These are just simple questions. So the first law I'm going to introduce is Parkinson's law. And as I get into Parkinson's law, and I really want you to pay attention to these laws today, because this one I find to be very interesting. Parkinson's law, not to be confused with Parkinson's disease. It just turns out that the two gentlemen with the names of Parkinson's did some discovery. They did some discovery work in 2 different directions. Okay, so Parkinson's. So Parkinson, the person who created Parkinson's law, he was a British naval officer. And what he found was that when people were given a certain amount of time to complete something, they use it all up. And another way of thinking about this is when a person was given a task, when a person's given a task, if it wasn't time bound, then typically it didn't get done. It didn't get done. And so what he began to, as a naval officer, what he began to explore was giving people what might seem to be difficult tasks and basically not giving them much time to complete it. And what he found was that when he did that, when he gave someone a challenging task and he shortened the length of time that they could actually produce or complete the task, that almost always they completed that task better, faster and better than someone who he gave the task to who had an unlimited amount of time. And so another way to think about Parkinson's law is that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. And so how do we apply this to our lives? If I'm not being very clear about the deadlines that I give myself, I will become distracted by other things in life. Almost everyone listening to me has a desire for money, right? And I think it's a natural, if you live in this world, money's necessary. And so in order for you to move and make things happen for you and the people that you love, that requires money. So if I were to say, well, goals come down to being clear about a desire, that's not all it. Because many of us are clear about the desires that we have. Is that fair? We're clear, I desire money. But then, Linnell, why don't I have money? And if we look at Parkinson's law, the reason you don't have money is because you did not say, I want to be a millionaire by the end of the year. You said, I want to be a millionaire. And so you'll spend your lifetime becoming distracted by other trivial tasks and never really getting there, according to Parkinson's law. Now, what Parkinson's law indicates then is that if I say I want to become a millionaire in 2025, the likelihood that happens is much higher. But most of us don't do that. We end it with, I want to be a millionaire. And according to Parkinson's law, it will never happen because there's all type of busy work and trivial matters that will distract you from doing what's necessary to create that type of revenue. $1 million might be a lot. I probably should have started with 100,000. But you get my point. You get my point. Most people want to make at least six figures. It's kind of like I've arrived professionally. I'm making six figures. I think it probably should be $250,000 now because it's six figures ain't what it used to be. When I first started making six figures, I think that's when it started changing because it was making six figures now, I still have money issues. And that's part of it was me. So without goals or deadlines, life becomes filled with distractions and trivial tasks. So what happens when you don't set a goal? Nothing. And I think that's the problem. When I survey, in terms of when I'm out in the world and I'm looking and I'm working with people, I'm talking to people, almost 80% of the time, I'm working with people who haven't, if we look at their potential, right? I'm measuring this against their potential, who haven't really done anything that they can truly be proud of. 80%. Like truly. And I'm not talking about your children and how you've raised them. I'm talking about, again, the fruit. Because men fruitful multiplies children. Fruitful is product. The product that you are putting out here for your fellow brothers and sisters to eat from, that is giving them something. And here's the thing, we link this back to money. A valuable product is how, like value is how you generate revenue. But because most of us aren't interested in what value we produce, and by the way, we would not be instructed to produce something if we didn't have the ability. So we all have the ability. It's just that I think we've been distracted by the trivial task of busy work. I mean, many of us waste weeks, months, years of our life doing stuff. I mean, like we're truly busy. Like busy. Like right now, somebody's too busy to come to the masterclass on the 28th. Like, and even if they call, I wouldn't be able to talk to them. Like, I'm like, well, what are you busy doing? I wouldn't be able to convince them that that busy work is beneath the opportunity to sit and learn. Like, and how that will the busy work produce a powerful 2025? Probably not. But we are committed to this. Like many of us are committed to our busy work. And that busy work has no clear goal or timeline attached to it. So it's not a goal. There's nothing, it doesn't create anything. It doesn't create fruit. It doesn't create a fruit with a seed. And this is why we've been living on repeat. Talked about this last week. Year after year after year after year after year. And nothing's changing because you keep allowing distractions and trivial tasks of busy work to get in the way of actually producing your goal. And this is what happens when we don't set goals. Right before I left corporate America, I was designing my business. I knew I was going to leave. I was working with my coach. I knew I was going to leave. I was designing my business. And as I'm designing my business, what I realized is that there were certain things I needed to learn that I didn't know. And there was a gentleman who taught this conference basically on like how to build your business online, how to do a lot of things that you guys see me doing, right? Like host a master class, email confirmations. I didn't know how to do all that kind of stuff, right? So I wanted to go learn. And I'm an executive, though. I'm an executive in corporate America. I have other responsibilities. I have work goals that I was told you need to do this, right? Or I even said I'm going to do this for this department, for this company. They weren't my goals. In alignment with my purpose. And so I signed up for this conference. It's in October 2015. Yeah. Or 2014, can't remember. One of those years. And I signed up for this conference, and I put in my paid time off, right? And like when you put in your paid time off, nobody's supposed to touch it. Unless you're an executive. And so I get a phone call the week before from my CEO's assistant. Says, hey, you got time off on the calendar, but the CEO, I'm not going to say his name, but he's calling a meeting, and every officer must be present. So I don't know what you planned on doing, but I was just letting you know. That's kind of how she said it too. Like, whatever you plan, you probably want to just. And I'm like, man, I'm supposed to fly to San Jose to be in this conference to learn how to run my online business for when I leave corporate America. It was 2014 because I wasn't close to leaving yet. Because if I was close to leaving, it wouldn't have been as tough of a choice. So I knew I wanted to leave, but, you know, I was putting everything together. The goal was to be gone in 2015. It's 2014 at the time. And so I'm kind of in this pickle because my boss is saying, I don't care if you took time off. You need to be here. Right? And I have a personal goal that is telling me I need to be somewhere else. Like, I need this to grow to the next level. What do you think I chose? What do you think I chose? It wasn't, and by the way, this was a difficult choice because I'm engaged at the time. I mean, because literally, I mean, when you're an executive and an officer, it don't take a whole lot to get fired. Like, hey, I said it was mandatory. You didn't come. Goodbye. I mean, that's good enough, really. Mandatory meeting from the CEO, and you flew to San Jose. Bye. So, and by the way, my plan for leaving is a year later. So I don't have everything saved up. I still need that bonus from 2015. You know, it's kind of like, what do I do? Well, I said to myself, like, look, man, anything worth having is going to come with resistance. And I believe that I need that course. I need that course in San Jose to take myself to the next level in alignment with the creator's purpose for my life. Not my boss's, the creator's purpose for my life. So I got on the plane and went. Now, here's the crazy part. The mandatory meeting was on a Thursday and Friday. I flew out on a Wednesday to get to the conference on Thursday. While I'm on the jet bridge, getting on the plane, there's a notification from the CEO's assistant. The mandatory meeting has been canceled. Here, and this is, sometimes we'll be tested in the way that only the creator can test us. It's like, when are you going to choose you? When are you going to choose me? Like the creator. You get where I'm going? Like, when are you going to choose you in terms of what I created you to do? And when are you going to choose me? There's always a test. Even when you read the good book, there's always, every prophet went through a test. Every king went through a test. Some passed, some didn't. What's your test? And I'm not saying the 28th is it, but what I am saying is the power of a goal provides clarity. It provides clarity. And by the way, let me be clear about what happened for me. Like, there was some murkiness. I'm like, I don't, like, because I'm in it. What decision am I supposed to make? I got this job that people would envy. And I also aspire for something else that hasn't completely materialized. And a lot of folks will give you the wisdom of a bird in the hand is better than one in the bush. But I would say your purpose is always, it trumps everything. It trumps everything. Because your purpose gives you peace. And no matter what happens, if you know you're aligned with purpose, peace comes with that. So one of the things that goals do, like, is it provides direction. I didn't have to call my mama and say, should I go to San Jose or no? Right? Because when we get into tight spots, like, mama's always a good phone call to make. But mama can't answer some of our questions. Like, there's going to come a time where you need to have definitive direction for your life. Where when tough decisions happen or come, you're very clear on the direction that you should go. And when we don't set goals, we lack direction. And I do believe that part of that lack of direction is what causes, it has emotional consequences. And one of the emotional consequences of not setting goals is anxiety, emptiness, and depression. As a matter of fact, in previous master classes, in previous goal-setting master classes, one of the things that I talked about, I'm not going to really be talking about it this Saturday, but one of the things I talked about was one of the benefits of goal setting is positive emotion. Like 80% of our positive emotions actually come from having clear direction. Like because I'm up to something, because I'm producing, because I'm fulfilling my purpose for life. Again, be fruitful and multiply. Fruit being product, multiply being children. We're talking about the fruit. Because I'm creating product, and that product has seeds, like that gives me a sense of purpose, and that sense of purpose gives me peace, and that peace comes with positive emotion. Like goal setting comes with positive emotion. So when folks talk about, I don't set goals. In many ways, if that's true, then what you're saying is I lack direction, and I'm consumed with anxiety, emptiness, and depression. Because that is the side effect. If you're dealing with anxiety, if you're dealing with emptiness, if you're dealing with depression, more than likely it's because you lack direction. And direction comes from a worthy goal. I'm afraid that like there's some basics that there's so much coming at us now that we're just kind of like, and then we wonder why we feel the way we feel. Or we stay in the loop because we have to maintain the medicine. And what I mean by the medicine, what's happening, like in the media. I got to keep watching the news. I got to keep watching Netflix. I got to keep watching my shows, because when I turn the show off, the emptiness I feel I can't deal with. And so they don't have another episode. Like, let me put one more on. And what's really missing is clear direction for what you're supposed to create in your life. And I think you guys know me well enough at this point where if you're like, I don't know how to set a goal, it's like, well, call me. 773-591-1690. Like every Sunday, like you can literally call and ask. So that can't be an excuse anymore. I believe the reason most of us aren't setting goals is because we're too distracted. We're too distracted being busy. And that busy hasn't gotten us anywhere. Like, look at your life. There's an apathy. I think the new year is coming, New Year resolutions. Some of us, we kind of get like, man, whatever. Like the same old, same old, same old. And, one of the shows I talked about is it's all kind of set up to confuse you. Of course, we would be trying to plant seeds in the winter. And so the reason I'm having this conversation is because intuitively what's in the air is the idea of a new resolution, with the new year coming. And what I would say is if you struggle with setting goals in the past, there's lots of reasons for that. We're in the 21st century and beyond, even, in the 20th century, 19th century, like the powers that be figured out that we can stall humans if we create a new year when the vibration of the earth is dead. And then when they're thinking about starting brand new things, the vibration of the earth is dead and it becomes more difficult. there's more resistance, and then they just don't do it. And I believe what happens is people have been trying to set goals, and everything's against them. It's cold outside. You got to go to the gym. It's cold. You walk out, because think about it. You set a goal to go to the gym and begin to transform your body in January. You're up against it. Okay? You want to get up in the morning, it's still dark. Then we step outside, it's cold. It's going to take you 5-10 minutes just to get the car warm enough to move it. Then you finally get to the gym, and it's packed because everybody got the same goal, which, by the way, only lasts for 2 weeks. Because then everybody stays home because they got tired of going through that. And they allow the seeds that they would have planted to fall by the wayside. And I believe I did a whole show on the calendar and how they changed the calendar, disrupted things to make it more difficult for us. And I believe one of the reasons we struggle is because we don't have the knowledge, and we make it mean something about us, and we get tired of making it mean something about us, and I don't want to be a failure, so I stopped setting goals. And what I'm looking to do is to encourage you and to provide you some level of training around why that is. I do think it's difficult to start a new cycle in the death cycle. What I mean by the death cycle, like winter is the death cycle. It's the regeneration cycle. It's much easier to start a new goal in April when the world is coming, when the world is everything, all the seeds are germinating. It's much easier. And so what if you used this time to learn? That's what I'm going to be doing with the Slay Your Goals community, the coaching community. Like, we're going to learn how to set the goal. But what I believe this time is for, the time of regeneration, is the time for clarity. So I'm not even really pushing you right now. Even December 28th, not to give away what I'm going to be talking about, but part of what it's going to be doing is training your mind for clarity. So then, if you can teach your mind for clarity in the cold and come into the spring when it's time to plant the seeds and you know what you want to plant, how powerful could you be? How powerful could 2025 be for you? That's where we're going. If you like that, keep listening. So what happens when you don't set a goal? Well, we already established there's a lack of direction. You feel aimless. There are emotional consequences. Now, there are some people who have clinical anxiety. I'm not talking about that. Folks who just can't function. But some of us, we have procrastinators' anxiety. That's the anxiety that you have. And you have it because you're not clear. You're not clear on what you intend to do. You're not clear on what you want to do. You're not clear on where you're going. And so the anxiety you have is self-produced because you don't have a clear goal. And you don't have a clear goal because you lack clarity. And you lack clarity because you haven't given yourself the gift of silence. You haven't given yourself the gift of just sitting down and not being busy. Like, for some people, that's a task to not be busy. I got to be busy doing something. Sitting down, being silent and still, and just saying a small prayer and asking the Creator, what direction should I be going? And allowing Him to share that direction and then believing it. Right? Believing it and moving forward in that space. All right, so when you don't set a goal, you lack direction, there's emotional consequences. But then the other part is stagnation. There's no growth or progress. And you know who suffers the most from stagnation? You. Like, you feel it. You feel it when you wake up. You feel it in the middle of the day. You feel it when you go to sleep. You feel it. You feel the lack of growth. You feel the lack of progress. And what begins to happen is the psyche begins to tell itself a story that, see, you ain't worth nothing. You ain't did nothing. And so the next consequence of not setting a goal is low self-esteem. And see, the mind isn't quick enough to say, well, the reason I haven't done anything is because I haven't set a goal. And maybe if I set a goal, I feel different. What happens for most of us is we look at the evidence around us and we listen to that voice that says, you ain't nothing, you ain't did nothing. We go, I haven't. And you look around you and your home doesn't look the way you want it to look. You promised yourself 10 years ago you're going to remodel the kitchen, and the same old kitchen, same old cabinets, same old fridge that you got to jerry rig to make sure it works. Everything, and you just kind of sit in that, and then you start to make it mean something about you. But really, the reason you are where you are is because you haven't activated your power. It's not because you're powerless. It's because you haven't activated your power. And inside of you is a flame that's waiting to burn its brightest. And like Marianne Williamson said, that's the part that most of us are afraid of. Your biggest fear is not that you're inadequate. Your biggest fear is that you're more powerful beyond measure. And then I got to deal with that. How would I deal with that? How will my friends deal with that? How will my crew deal with that? If I'm powerful beyond measure, will I lose friends? Yep. I can tell you. You will. There are going to be people who can't be with your light. But isn't that better than sitting there sulking? Isn't that better than having low self-esteem, like the consequence? Because here's the thing, the friends that I lost, that they really didn't love me. They did, they still be around. I thought they did. But they loved where I was. They loved the comfort that my situation brought them. When I changed my situation, it made them uncomfortable. I had to go. No. You're proof that I could do it too. No, sir. Got to go. Can't be in my life. Right? So low self-esteem. And then what happens is when you're stagnant, you have low self-esteem. There are emotional consequences of anxiety, emptiness, and depression. And you're aimless. Typically, that impacts your finances. So you're also financially unstable. And because finances require proper planning, and you don't have a proper planning muscle, because that requires muscle, right? Then you lack planning for your finances, which means you have poor financial habits. You see how this kind of begins to snowball? Because I'm out and about. I was at the car wash. There's a brother. He was like, man, I love that truck, bro. He was like, man. And I was like, set goals. And he was like, man, goals ain't. How does... Hold on. Help me. So there's someone who has something that you want, that you desire, that you like. You compliment it. They tell you back, you can have it too. You can have it too. Set goals, because it was a setup so I could invite them. I was going to invite them to the master class. That's what I've been on, right? I'd be at the gas station, come to the master class, right? The cashier behind it, like, how you doing? You don't like this job? Come to the master class, right? That's what I've been on, right? They like, what? The Indian guy behind is like, really? It's my family's business, but I may come if I can be there. I like, don't let them put you on Saturday at morning, right? I'll be there. Okay, I want to see you, right? Come to the master class. So I'm telling the guy, I'm like, set goals. He's like, man, what? How? And I'm like, bro, are you serious? Man, goals don't really work for me. I said, so let me ask you a question. What system did you put in place of the goal setting? He just stared at me. What do you mean? I said, what system? If goals don't work for you, then what system have you put in place to replace goals? Man, I just kind of put it in my mind and I go for it. I said, and how has that been working? He just kind of chuckled. Right. I said, you know why you don't like goals, bro? I said, why? I said, because it pushes you. It challenges you. It forces you to do something different. And then if you don't achieve the goal, you are forced to deal with failure. He's like, yeah, that's it. I know it's it. But here's the thing. Most of us are running from failure because we don't realize that it's failure that transforms us. It is failure. It is failure that actually causes many great people to rise from the ashes and do something powerful. It's because I failed. I was watching this video. SpaceX, the rockets. Elon Musk started this, I think, in 2013. And there's a video of the first rocket. And mind you, each one of these rockets, 500 million, 700 million maybe. So this ain't small failure. Like, this is collateral damage. I mean, the first rocket, they all set up. They got it on video because, you know, you're on video, like, you got to video it. Goes up. Boom. Explosion. Most of us would have said, well, I guess we're not going to space. That's what most of us would have done. You get where I'm going? Elon says, do it again. What went wrong? Do it again. The second rocket makes it a little further, makes it into the atmosphere, blows up. We did better. We did better. I mean, bro, that's another how many million? Do it again. I believe it was the 13th one. The 13th rocket. Don't quote me. You can look it up. But here's the crazy part. Not only did that rocket take off and launch that capsule into space, then it came back down and redocked. Did you see that video? It came back and redocked. The reason they were able to achieve that was because of failures back to back to back. And many of us, the perception we have of failure is wrong. That failure is teaching you something incredibly valuable about the goal you're looking to achieve. So, what happens when you don't set a goal? Lack of direction, emotional consequences, stagnation, no growth or progress, low self-esteem, financial instability. I don't know. This isn't adding up for me. I would be setting goals if I heard this. Here's the other one. Missed legacy, unfulfilled potential. At the masterclass, I want to play this audio for everybody. I'm giving away a little bit because I'm really trying to put anyone who walks into the building or who is connected to us virtually, I'm trying to put you into a certain state, like as you go into 2025. That's the intention. Again, you can go to slayyourgoals.com to register. But the intention is to put you in a state on purpose. And that state is a frequency and a vibration of clarity. Clarity. Like, I've been working with human beings around goal setting for 13 years, going on 13 years. And the one thing I see in terms of why people don't get where they intend to go is a lack of clarity. That's it. Everybody might not know who I am 100 years from now, but my grandchildren will. If God allows the earth to rotate, like that legacy will be in place because it's a goal. They'll be like, hey, Grandpa laid it out, man. A legacy will be there. A legacy will be there. We're moving into a new frame, 2025. I've been doing my best to tell you. Like, what's been happening the decade before this, the way the system was set up, it allowed us to maybe move with a lack of clarity. That job security, everything's under fire going into 2025. I want you to hear. I'm not one, I don't really like the fear mongering thing when people are like, they tell you something to make you scared, because I know like fear pushes people to do things. This is not like trying to make you be afraid. This is telling you what's going to happen. Like, that's what the show 2024, The Last Year of Now, was about. That's what the show 2025, The First Year of Tomorrow, was about. Like, what's going on in technology, they're talking about it, and they're moving fast. Like, as I've been digging in, they're moving fast. They're moving fast. My team already, I'm like, hey, look, like, we have to leverage AI. Like, we must, all of you all, you must leverage AI. We met on Friday, the entire team. Hey, we're going to move forward with AI. You got to get comfortable with AI. If you don't get comfortable with AI, I have to let you go. That's where we are. That job, even if they don't let you go, they may not survive this new era. Real life examples. Like, there were folks who worked at Kodak who were like, I'm good. I mean, think about what that job was like. 80s and 90s. Like, you would never think. I'm going to retire here. I got a pension. Blockbuster. And I'm not talking about the guy behind the cash register. I'm talking about the executive who was like, everything's set. I have restricted stock. Everything's good. And we weren't even in an era like we're about to go into. It was just innovation that took them out. It was just simple innovation that they should have saw coming. All of us see what's coming now. Like, we're looking at it come towards us. If you are not getting clear about what you're going to produce, what fruit you're going to produce that is of value, you will be in trouble. And you can take that one to the bank. As a matter of fact, you can record it and you can play it back to me 5 years from now. And if I wasn't right, then I will own it. But it's one of those things where I'm afraid of how right I am. Recently, Bed Bath & Beyond went down. Why did they go down? A failure to innovate and set goals. A failure to innovate and set goals. Peloton's another one. 2020, they were killing the game. And this is to the folks right now who you feel like you're on top. What's the next step? Like, you got to be clear on the next step. I'm going to tell you the story before I talk about Peloton. Because to me, this is like the story of Peloton in some ways. Peloton, they have been looking to break into the market, and then they did. So here's the story. It's a story that Earl Nightingale tells that I've listened to over and over again. And there's a story of a man, and he has a goal to generate a business that becomes worth millions of dollars so he could sell it. That was the goal. So he starts this business, and he puts everything he has into this business. He set the goals. He writes the goals down. He's achieving the goals. He runs into failures here and there. But he continues to meet the goal year after year. And he finally gets to the place where he had visioned, right? He had envisioned where now he can put the company up for sale and he can make his millions. And so he goes through the transaction. And after the transaction, he's an incredibly wealthy man. And he had no goals after that. I mean, that was the goal. So he was on top. So because he didn't have a goal, he began to lack direction. And in his lack of direction, he decided to join a cruise around the world. He thought that might be the thing to do. So he goes on his cruise, and on the cruise, because he has no direction, he spends his days drinking, smoking, and reading novels. Often the crew would find him asleep on the deck, going into the night. Sir, we need to take you back to the suite. Before the cruise ended, he died. Why did he die? Lack of direction, aimless. Nothing to do, nothing to aspire to. Drank himself to death. You might say, well, how does this link to a company like Peloton? 2020, they hit their goals. Everything is humming. Everybody's at home. Everybody's ordering a bike. And the CEO at that time didn't say, well, what happens when the world goes back to normal? What goals do we have beyond this? Like, this stuff is simple, you guys. It works if you're making $5,000. It works if a company is generating $5 billion. It doesn't matter. The principles are the principles. And even when you're on top, you have to set a goal. There should always be a goal. Somebody asked me not too long ago, you think you ever retire? No. My retirement will be my last breath. Because as long as there's breath in my lungs, I know the Creator has a purpose for me. And so my purpose may shift, but it won't stop. What sense does it make to die on a boat by myself, selling from country to country? And like, you get where I'm going? Because I thought I had hit the apex. Even when you're on top, you have to set goals. Peloton's phenomenal. 4 years ago, they were killing it. 4 years ago, everything was going in their direction. And it's like, okay, how do we maintain these subscriptions? What's the goal for that? How do we continue to sell bikes? What's the goal for that? Now, I hope you don't have stock. If you do, they should be puts. What is the lesson here? Stagnation and lack of vision is costly. No matter what size company you run, no matter how much revenue you bring in, it's costly. So when you have a goal, what begins to happen is that there's a different level of focus. And what happens when you don't have a goal is that you're operating without focus. And when you're operating without focus, you'll chase almost anything and accomplish nothing. Let me say it again. Like, when you don't have a goal, you lack focus. And when you lack focus, you'll chase almost anything and accomplish nothing. And now we live in a world where there's vision everywhere. You're driving. There's vision on, what do you call those things on the road? The advertisement, the billboards. There's vision. That's a vision. A vision for a new car, a vision for a new drink, a vision for another meal. That's really what it is, right? Then you get into the city, they got digital vision and lights. A vision for how you should entertain yourself this weekend. A vision for the next, you weren't thinking about the theater, right? A vision for going to the theater. Oh, I could take my wife there for Christmas, right? A vision, like you're surrounded by all these different visions. Then you sit down at your computer and the pop-ups come. There's a vision for what you should purchase, a vision for, the last minute gift, a vision for this, a vision for that. In the background, the football game is playing, and there's a vision for the kind of shoe you should wear, a vision for the type of medicine you might need because you're not clear and you've got a little feeling anxiety. So maybe I could just take that, and that would help me. But then it's got all those side effects that they play the music over as they list them out. This may make you feel better, but it'll give you bad diarrhea. Well, I'd rather have diarrhea than to deal with this anxiety. Because that's what you're saying if you take it. By the way, the diarrhea could possibly lead to death. Possibly, maybe. How they say it? They say, in some studies, in some cases, this has been known to potentially, possibly lead to death. So I'll do that. And all I'm saying is maybe just set a goal. I'm like, and by the way, I'm saying the side effect of that is clarity, life. Like, why isn't mine popular? Why isn't my remedy popular? I can't figure it out. I'm going to tell you why. Because they're the loudest. Here's the thing. As much as I love you, I could put all my revenue into advertising and still not outshout them. I can't outshout them. It requires that you focus in. Like, you got to say, this brother's on Sundays, and I'm going to be there. You got to say, he's giving a free masterclass December 28th, and I'm going to be there. Like, you've got to do that because I can't outshout them. But that's where most of us are getting our vision. We watch these shows, these series, like we're locked in. Somebody's going to miss the masterclass because the next episode was too good. So they're gonna sleep too late. You follow? Like, this is the kind of thing that takes us out. How clear are you? Without focus, people chase everything and accomplish nothing. And the beauty of vision is, you know how they put the blinders on the horses? What they do to horses is horses get distracted if they see too many things, right? If they see something over there, they're going to want to go there. And if I got the horses on the carriage, I want them to go straight. I want them, if I pull left, I need you to go left, horse. If I pull right, I need you to go right, horse, right? And so what vision does is it puts the blinders on, like the horse. And, personally, I don't think so much of myself that I think I can't get distracted. I need the blinders. I need the blinders. You know what provides the blinders? The creator with my purpose. And then here are the goals aligned with your purpose. So then there's certain things I'm just not interested in. Certain things I don't even really see because I got the blinders. And vision helps narrow your choices. And so then you begin to prioritize what matters, because what matters is what I see, is what I'm looking at. That's what matters. Some of us are anxious because we just got too many choices. It's too much going on, too much to do. Woo, December 28th, everything's happening that day. I got a brunch, he's talking about the master class. I got this, I got that. This new show's dropping. It's so much happening. It's too many choices. And then you get anxious. Oh my goodness, what is the right thing to do? Get still, get quiet. Align yourself to your vision. Choose from there. sharing with my team, we were talking about Michael Jordan. I don't know if you remember this. And I shared with him I had the opportunity to meet Michael Jordan 3 different times. The first time I met Michael Jordan, I was working at a car wash out in Wheeling, Illinois, not too far from the Bulls practice facility. Michael Jordan pulled in, I think it was a Range Rover, and all the guys were clamoring because we had a system. You know, you wait your turn, and they were clamoring to take his car. The boss came out and said, hey, stick with the system. Just turns out I was the one that had the opportunity to wipe down his truck. And I remember wiping down that Range Rover, man. It came out. Thanks, young fella. Gave me like $3. I thought it'd be more. Gave me $3, and he drove off. It's like, wow, I just met Michael Jordan. I remember thinking, like, man, like, what would I have to do to drive like that, move like that, be like that? And this felt so far away, like a completely different world. Because at the time, I was aimless. The reason I was working at a car wash is because I got fired from Sears and I couldn't find another job. And I was just trying to figure out what was next. I was about 22, 23 years old, driving all the way to Wheeling. And I was the only one with a car. 2 of the gentlemen who I used to drive with, they lived on the west side. Actually, I think I was younger than 22. This might be before I went to Northern Illinois. I can't remember. But they lived on the west side. I would pick these 2 guys up, and we would be in my little Dodge Charger, and we would drive. And this is not the big body Charger. It's a small hatchback. When they tried to, in the 80s, they switched it up. And we would drive out to Wheeling. And these guys would be talking about their lives, their stories. One of them, I believe he was a drug addict. And he would go out there, he would disappear halfway through the day when he made enough. Make his way back to the west side. And I remember, man, every day, same thing. In a good day, if I got $100 in tips, you know, that was a good day. Just how do I get out this cycle? But I had to pay rent. I had to keep that car going. And I remember like this feeling of like you're driving off a cliff because I can't make enough to get ahead. This car's not going to last, but I can't make enough to save anything for a new car. This rent ain't going to stay the same, but I can't save enough to get out of this place. And it felt like the world was just converging in on me. And every now and then I have these moments where celebrities will come through, wipe down their cars, and you forget all that. And it seemed like the car wash was the thing to do. Because I had these glimpses of greatness. And the only thing that got me out of that was deciding that life didn't work. Like I had to completely leave that life. And that's actually when I went back to school. I had to set a goal. I had to set a goal that actually disrupted all of it. I had to give the car up. That hurt. That was my baby. Give it up. I had to give the apartment up. That hurt because that was my individuality, my freedom. I had to make a decision that I was going to leverage the support of my parents and go back to school. But that came because I set a goal. All right, this isn't working. So I gotta do something, because if I stay in this cycle, you guys get that I could still be in that cycle? And maybe it wouldn't be the car wash, but it could be a warehouse. Another job I had was I used to work at the Jewel's warehouse, stacking groceries. I know exactly how groceries get where they go because I did it. picking up big boxes with 6 gallons of bleach, throwing them on the back of a crate, stacking them, driving them to the truck on the forklift. There's the little slow little ones you drive standing up, and dropping them, heading back, just working all day. I believe at the time I was making about $16 an hour. That was a good job. And I remember I decided that was going to be it. Till a gentleman there said, hey, man, I'll talk to you sometimes. You're too smart to do this. This is how we take care of our families. This is not how, you're too young. This is not what you should be doing. I heard him. I said a go. There was another point in my life. Now, I finished school, at least for that point. I got my little paper, and I got a job at Kinko's. I worked my way up from customer service to quality assurance. I made sure that your copies were the way you wanted them to be. Then I went from that, I became the assistant manager of the store. And this felt right. I could pay my car note. I couldn't afford rent, still living in my mom's basement, but that seemed good enough. And it was my mother who said, hey, you could do better than this. Set a different goal. All right, let's get a better job. Set the goal. I wouldn't have never, ever had the global experience that I have, the opportunity to work for companies that send me all over the world, if I hadn't set that goal. I was happy at Kinko's. Seemed to be doing what it was supposed to do. If I hadn't set the goal, if I hadn't listened to my mom say, you can do better, I wouldn't have set another goal. I set the goal that landed me at Allstate Insurance. The first time I ever left the country to work somewhere else was with that company. All of a sudden, I saw a whole world. Like, wait a second. Look what's out here. Change me. Goals have a way of supporting us with getting to the next level of life where we're supposed to be. Now, we go back to that 23, 24-year-old young man who's just trying to figure out how to pay his car note. And I wouldn't be able to wrap my mind around the person I've become because it's just too drastically different. But I became who I am one goal at a time. One goal at a time. And every goal felt impossible. Every one of those goals felt like just a bit out of reach. But just imagine if you reach up and you get it, and then you could pull yourself there. Then you reach up again, and year after year after year, you do that. And sometimes it's not even year after year. Sometimes it's just month after month, a little bit at a time. If you can just hold on and achieve that one goal begins to transform and change every aspect of your life. If you wonder why I'm such a proponent for goal setting, that's why. Because I wouldn't be here otherwise. There's a time I couldn't hold a conversation on the radio, talk on the radio for 2 hours. Are you kidding me? Are you insane? Linnell Harris? Absolutely not. It was a goal to speak better that laid the foundation for this. I just wanted to be able to speak I didn't want to be on the radio. I just wanted to be able to speak and hold my own in a meeting. That's it. To express a thought. And it was that goal that laid the foundation for one day being the type of communicator I am today. There's a concept that I've talked about. So basically a 3-word concept: be, do, have. Most of us, it'd be much easier just to skip to the having. But you can't maintain something that you aren't. And that's why we have to be. And I firmly believe that one of the reasons effort is so powerful is because it gets into the vibration of who we be. In order for me to show up, I have to be something. And it's in being that begins to transform my life so I can have what I intend to have. Be, do, have. Goals help clarify who you should be so that way you can become the individual that can actually have and sustain the blessings that you desire. One domino at a time. One domino at a time. One brick at a time. When you don't set goals, you settle. You're settling. You're settling by default. What if, before each of us died, we had the opportunity to meet the person we were created to be? Imagine that. Like, before you pass away, you have an opportunity to meet the person that you were supposed to be. Would you be aligned? Would you be looking at your twin? Or would you be looking at somebody you could barely recognize? That's me. That's who I was supposed to be. And I don't know about you, but I'm working hard that if that did happen, I'd be like, I know you. I recognize you. That's me. I want to be who I'm supposed to be. Like, that's my prayer. Like, help me be who you created me to be. And I know that if I'm struggling, if I'm anxious, if I'm not clear, that's not it. Thank you for watching Inspirational Perspective. If you love this show and you want to see more content like this, you can go right here. And if you like this subject and you want to see much more content that we have available for you, just click the button here. As always, thanks for watching. Be sure to watch the show live, 7 a.m. every Sunday morning on WVON Radio, or you can catch it right here on YouTube or Facebook.com/Coach Liddell Harris. Be sure to hit that like button. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so we can get more content just like this to you.